Yeah,
Here.
it's not too bad. It's because most of it is, oh, no, Andrew.
Oh.
Did I kill him? Oh.
Great start.
That was real solid. Andrew reaches out, grabs his phone, starts spinning, and then it just goes and gone. He turned his phone the wrong way and turned it to the off direction instead of on. All right. Whatever.
He put it in the washing machine.
There we go. Can I hear you now?
Yeah, there you are.
Good.
All right, here we go.
My phone was going crazy.
Are you sure it's not going crazy because you're spinning it in a circle?
Freaking nuts.
Dude, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, well, after just the brutal, long, and tiring off-season that we've had to experience, the Premier League is just around the corner, finally. We have a season coming up. We have a motley crew of Alex Level, Andrew Ainsworth, and Will Caves on the discussion tonight. We have You'll Never Talk Alone. Hi, I'm your friend Joseph Craven. This is the start of this brand new season on the podcast. Brand new season in the Premier League itself. Brand new season. First season as defending Premier League champions. That's right. Liverpool, still champs. We may not have had much of an off-season to actually celebrate it, but we've been celebrating, and we get this entire next season to continue reveling as the defending champions. So here is our opportunity to jump into some of the discussions that just surround the start of yet another season. Some teams breaking the bank to bring in transfers. Liverpool not, and whether that matters much.
We lost our debit card.
We're waiting on the new one to come in, but, friggin' Barclays won't give it to us. All right, talk about our long-standing tradition of each predicting the teams that we think will get relegated and then forgetting to ever revisit whether any of our predictions are correct. It's just what we do on the podcast. But it's going to be a good little preview, start of the season episode as we lead up to our kickoff on Saturday against, one of the darling Cinderella teams, stories to come out of the sport in a little while in Leeds. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it, gentlemen. Who wants to go first? Raise your hand here on our video call that we're recording on for who would like to volunteer to... I'm just kidding. All right. So the first question that we really have to grapple with, as being in unprecedented... I'm sorry I even said that word in 2020. Being in brand new waters as defending Premier League champions, something that is a brand new luxury to us. I guess the first question we have to address is, with Liverpool, what are the expectations for this season? Obviously, over the past couple of years, being contenders, last year being the fastest team to ever clinch a title, the questions surround, okay, can we repeat? What are the expectations? What would constitute like a failure of a season? That sort of thing. What would constitute success? So, we'll go back to the traditional order of starting things off and jump over to Alex Level. But Alex, expectations for the year. What do you think are the expectations for Liverpool this season?
We want to be challenging on both fronts. That is the expectation. We've won the Champions League. We've won the Premier League. Now the expectation is, can we win them both in the same season? And, well, that's not really an expectation. That's more of a question asked of the squad. The expectation is that we can win both of those in the same season. The expectation is for us to be the favorite in both competitions and to be as dominant as we have been. It's going to be hard to follow up a season of just absolute devastation that we had in the league, and it's going to be a stretch to have everyone just be as absolute garbage as they were last season. But we have to keep our levels, we have to keep our intensity, and we have to evolve because teams will start to figure out exactly what we want to do and how we want to do it, and we need to grow beyond that and not let them get in our way when I guess if you want to call it plan A or strategy 1 or like the first thing in the table of contents of the book that you get when you sign for Liverpool, when that's not necessarily working because teams are packing the flanks or sitting deep, which we kind of figured out how to do, but how to get around, but especially packing the flanks and cutting off Trent and Andy. So that will be the expectation, is for us to still be as good as we have been, and as impressive as we have been. And the big question will be, based on the actions we've taken this summer and how the squad is, because it's incredibly hard to maintain those levels, can we do it again? So lots of intrigue. Be sure to tune into Peacock, not on regular TV, on streaming only, to watch it all unfold.
Ding. Yeah, Andrew, how about if Alex is talking about like what the expectations might be, when you look at the season and you look at the weight that the team has to carry this year as reigning champions, what would be enough to constitute a successful season, you think? What would be like the bare minimum to look back on the year and go, okay, well, I mean, that was fine, that was successful, like, we're not upset. I mean, let's be honest, we're all sports fans. We're going to be pissed irrationally no matter what happens. We just are. It's what we do. But what would be something that like fans will look at afterwards and go, yeah, that was a good year, bare minimum, that was a good year? What do you think it would be?
Bare minimum would have to be similar to, I guess, 2 seasons ago now.
Yeah.
Where we were competing with Man City. We came up a few points short, 1 point, and then really a few centimeters short, and then we won the Champions League. I mean, that season, if we had that again, I'd be able to shrug it off and say, like, great season, like, we did what we needed to do, we just couldn't cross the line. But if we aren't at least competing for the Premier League because we didn't, if we have some injuries or because we didn't invest in the squad and we aren't winning it this year, it's going to be a big issue.
Will, what do you think on the other side of that would constitute, like, well, I mean, Andrew said, a few things that would be a big issue. What do you think is going to constitute us looking at it and say this season was just like a failure? Even if we do pretty well, even if we, are fairly competitive in some areas, what's going to still not be good enough, you think, in light of the high standards that we now live under as a club and as, Premier League champions? I just want to keep saying that over and over again. It sounds good to me every time I say Liverpool Premier League champions. So I'm going to keep doing it. But what do you think would be, just a failure of a year?
So I think we define success really strangely now because we've won everything. Like, there's not the ultimate goal for as long as I've been a fan is get a title, get a Premier League title, get a Premier League title. And we've done that. And so, like, success is weird. Like, I kind of agree with Andrew that maybe we don't win number 7, but we at least go very deep in the Champions League. I think we have to get at least 90 points in the league and maintain our home unbeaten run. That's because that's like, it's going on 45 years now or so. And I mean, that's a small thing, but like, assuming we don't win the Champions League, we don't win the league again, maybe we don't sign a big name player from Bayern Munich, something like that. That's really something we can still hang our hat on. So to lose that would be a big deal as well. I just don't want to see us like descend into perpetual second, third place in Champions League quarterfinal like that. We're better than that, and I think we will be, but that would be disappointing. We just have, if we don't have anything to play for like in April, it's gonna suck.
Yeah. If there's just like nothing going on, obviously that would be frustrating for anyone that's considered to be one of the top 6 teams in general, but especially a team that is currently in, not like coming out of, but still currently in 2 to 2.5 of the most impressive years that a team has had in the sport. I mean, winning Europe, following that up with just absolutely running rampant in the Premier League, all of that sort of stuff going on for the past couple of years. It would be to see that drop off in any sort of drastic way seems like it would really be just absolutely devastating. But I think at this point it's a weird luxury to have, right? The weird luxury of being able to say that like we can define success and failure on much more grander scales than we did 4 years ago, 5 years ago, as recently as just a few years back, where we were talking about success being, let's just make sure we can secure a top 4 Champions League spot. That's where where we were, and to be able to be past that and have those loftier expectations, it's a good place to be. These are good problems to have. They still can be stressful problems to have, though. So I guess the question here is, we've kind of alluded a bit to the lack of movement, transfer movement in particular, that we've seen, which isn't, often surprising with the way that our team does business. It's if we want somebody, we go really hard after that person. And if we don't want that person, we're not going to just go after some other like player, some similar player. That's not the strategy that we've employed. So the question is, I guess, with some of that lack of movement compared to some other teams that have made a lot of movement, Alex, it goes without saying that Manchester City and new acquisition Lionel Messi. Oh wait, no, my bad. It goes without saying that always a team to look out for. But who are the other teams you think that are the league competitors as we look into this next season, Alex?
It's definitely going to be Manchester City. They're going to be up there. I don't think they're going to be as sloppy as they were last season, although they haven't necessarily strengthened their most problem area. Sure, they've got Nathan Ake back there now, but
is that really much of strengthening? That's the question.
He's just been subjected to just too many beatdowns at Bournemouth to maybe be whole. And they still haven't locked up Koulibaly yet, which is good for everyone else. They've made some acquisitions in the attacking front that would be good, but at some point they're going to have to figure out how to stop conceding. But they'll definitely be in the conversation. Chelsea have made some really smart moves. They've made some really big moves. They've got a whole new just attacking threat core that they're bringing to the table, and they might be without some of those players at first, but they'll be healthy, and we'll see how Lampard can. This is where we'll see how good of a coach Lampard actually is, because you see some of the times where you say, well, anybody could win with that team of players, and that's not technically true. And then you have to manage. It's a whole different type of management when you're dealing with players of that caliber, rather than some plucky youngsters, even if they're highly rated. So I think those will be the main two challengers. I don't see anyone else really being an actual title contender outside of those two, and Chelsea is just kind of they've got it on paper, they're ready for it, but let's see how it actually looks in practice.
Yeah.
So those are the main two to work out. Now that Wolves are making, not Wolves, Portugal, I believe the Portuguese national team is looking pretty good this year in the league. They've made some good signs. They actually have some depth, because I know they don't tend to use any players besides like the main 14, but they might be able to do that. And if they can string something together, they could push for top 4. But I think title's still out of the question. So yeah, watch out for the Blue Boys is what I'm saying, except for Everton.
Okay. The Blue Boys.
Made some good signings.
Yeah,
Might be
Everton's
pretty good.
actually. It could happen.
I feel like that's said every year, and then they score 90 own goals in the first game.
Yeah, but James Rodriguez is a little bit different than Michael Keane. Let's be honest. I mean,
How so?
what? Fair enough.
Give me 3 reasons.
Fair enough. But no, I'm actually. I don't want to talk about Everton too much because we'll catch on fire. But it is. I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it is. You just never know what you're gonna get as you get into the season. When it comes to looking at our despised neighbors, you just never know. It's like sometimes you go into the year and you're like, wow, they are gonna be a train wreck, and they are. And then sometimes you look at it and you're like, wow, maybe they're actually making some good moves, and then they're still a train wreck. So like, it's like what version of train wreck is going to happen, and like what are we going to be able to witness with them? So anyway, and
real quick, going back to Chelsea.
Yes.
Have they actually fixed their problems?
Not really, no.
Right.
So they've brought in some leadership at center back, but I mean he's Thiago Silva is very good. He's not what he once was, but he's still very good. And they've brought Chilwell, who still kind of a work in progress. So I mean they will be better, but considering how far behind us they were, I mean, it's natural that they were going to get better. So it's one of those ones where wait and see. They're going to be like ridiculously annoying on FIFA and PES, but we'll see on the actual pitch. We'll see.
right.
I think Chelsea is gonna be like us pre-Allison. Like they're gonna have to outscore everybody to win, and so you're gonna see a lot of 4-3s, a lot of 3-1s. You know, just like they got to outscore everybody because that's where because they're top heavy. I mean, that's Kepa is not good enough, but they can't get rid of him, and so
Right.
and
they hate him. They absolutely hate him.
And he hates
That's
himself.
the same
really.
exact thing that I said to my friend the other day. He asked me about Chelsea, and I sent him like the old Liverpool meme that had like the Ferrari, and then like the shitty car in the way back, like the jalopy. Who knows? They could be awesome.
Yeah, they will be on
work
FIFA.
some wonders for that team. Yeah, they will.
On FIFA for sure. But yeah, well, that's a great question, Andrew. Like, have they fixed things? Because you look at the teams that have made the most amount of moves between Chelsea and then a lot of the moves that are being made, like at Manchester United. That you look at it and you're like, okay, they're making a lot of moves, but what do any of those moves actually do for them? Like look at United and it's like, okay, why are they targeting so many attacking players? Like, why in the world are they trying to go after all these players that obviously don't affix the issues? And that's one of the things that I always go back to when it comes to our own frustrations with our lack of movement at Liverpool at times in the transfer market, is that we at least go after players that we're going to use them. Like, we have a purpose for going after them. We don't go after just anyone willy-nilly. It's like, okay, we're going to go grab a Gini Wijnaldum, and it might take him a year to get adjusted, but once he's adjusted in here, you're going to see just how invaluable, that sort of thing. We're not just buying everyone. It seems like for a while that was the trend where you bought everybody and then you were successful. Man City. And it seems like we are starting the trend now of you have to be smarter with your purchases once again to actually build a team and not just buy all the other teams so you don't have any competition anymore. So I'm curious to see if that trend keeps going, of the smarter purchases working out better.
Well, I think it's interesting, and FSG, on that note, FSG has really shown that they are prudent buyers. I mean, Allison was available. They paid what it took to get Allison. Van Dijk, same thing. And maybe they waited just a little bit too long.
Yeah, but again, those are two guys that they looked at and said, these are our targets. Yeah. It's not just, we're going to get another center back, or we're just going to get another... It was, no, these are the targets we want.
Well, and I think that's why maybe we haven't seen Thiago come over yet. It's because, I mean, he's 30 and his contract is up next year. Like, I could very well see us getting him at Christmas for like 12 million or something, but like, I think if you look at it now, if Genie goes, I think they push it through.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I could
Kinda have to.
I think, yeah, but if he doesn't, assuming Genie stays, I don't think we see Tiago until Christmas. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that FSG, despite what Reddit and Twitter would want them to be, has shown that they will identify a player and go after him when it's time. Like they'll go after it if it has to happen now. They'll go. Like I don't think they wouldn't have let anybody else get Van Dijk. I don't think they wouldn't have let anybody else get Allison. I think they would have bought him right then. When they were available. But like you look at United. Back to your original point. Like Van de Beek is good, but like, is he good because Ajax was good last season, or is he good because he's good? Like that's everybody remembers him from Ajax's run, but if you also look at him, like he didn't get scooped up like Frankie de Jong did whenever that season was over. I mean, there's something there that's just kind of interesting with him specifically. I mean, there's a few more, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how some of those guys pan out on those other teams.
Yeah, I think in the same vein though, like we look at FSG and we say like they're willing to do what it takes and get like the right players. But at the same time, you look at them and I could be wrong, but I think they're kind of known as like a hard bargain though. Like teams don't really want to negotiate with them because it takes, a really long time, and they're willing to wait it out. And they're willing to make the player like sit and say, no, I'm not. I only want to join this team, which is almost like, not to be negative about it, but it's almost just as bad as saying like we aren't going to just go ahead and buy the players because it's like we don't want to spend the money that they're worth in some cases.
Yeah,
like
and you look at
if you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. If you just look at like the Van Dijk saga. Like that was a huge issue, and we almost didn't get him because we wouldn't just, I don't know, like any other team, spend the money and do it right in the beginning.
But
go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Well, and you look at how they buy, where we do have the ones where we're saying, okay, we're going to get this player specifically, no matter what. But it's also because they're buying the player profile. And that is the only player that fits the profile that they're looking for. Because conversely, you look at something that the Tsimikas deal. We were negotiating with Norwich for Jamal Lewis, and sadly enough for him, Norwich ended up coming down on their asking price for Newcastle, but not for us. But that comes back to us negotiating. We clearly are very kind of direct and don't always come off to the person we're offering to as the most polite, clearly, because we don't always necessarily get the price we want. But once there was a point where it said, okay, we're not going to reach this deal. What was it, like 2 days later? That's when we wrapped up the Tsimikas deal. So we had a list in mind of players that would play the way that we want to, and we're going to find the price that we want. And that seems to be what's holding up the Thiago deal in general. All the reports say, okay, Thiago and Liverpool have an agreement for a wage deal. All that remains is that Bayern value him at 30 million. Liverpool do not value him at 30 million. And there's no impasse for that. Liverpool's like, would you take 20 million? Bayern are like, no, we would not take 20 million. We would like 30 million. And we're like, okay, well, we'll wait you out then. Yeah. And that's exactly what's happening until we like generate revenue from other player sales. Because Lovren didn't really bring in that much, but you're looking at
which I'm still shocked by.
But you're looking at like Will mentioned earlier, this potential sale of Genie, or the reports that we're putting Brewster on the market. That would be something that's saying the player profile that we're looking for can, one, only be fit by Thiago, which is probably true because there's not many midfielders out there like Thiago, and two, that we would be willing to sacrifice someone that does something for the team or will do something for the team in the future to get this right now, because we know to challenge we would necessarily need that. But there's also the case of we might not do that and we think we're fine, and that the cost isn't worth what we'd have to give up.
Yeah, and kind of going a little bit back to if I can interject real fast, what y'all are talking a little bit about, the profile of player that we go after, or like that's where you start to also see like the heavy influence of Jurgen Klopp in the way that we conduct transfers. Is that you start to see how he has a clear cut profile that he's like, oh, this player will work with what I'm trying to do. So we need to get that either the specific guy or these like two guys that play similar style. You know, like you could see his influence in the way business is conducted, which I think a lot of people are, like myself included, it's easy to forget what sort of influence he has on the business side as well, and only want to put blame purely on FSG, and not necessarily want to say, well, maybe also Klopp is saying like it's this guy or nothing. So like keep playing hardball. You know, you got it. That's just another thing to also kind of that I always kind of think about a little bit as well.
Well, and I think with Thiago, I would not be shocked if we look back on this. Well, hopefully it's a little bit cleaner, but this reminds me a lot of the Fekir deal. The deal that happened but didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
The Fekir was kind of in a similar place, like a flashy, good player, good performance in Europe. Not obviously a different player, but similar profile, similar status, maybe in the world football at the time. And then something happened, it didn't work out, whatever. But we went and shortly thereafter got Minamino. And I mean, that's, it's a year later, but they're similar profile players, probably. They play attacking mids, that kind of thing. That's obviously what Klopp was looking for. But we also, Van Dijk aside, and even arguably Alisson aside, they're not really keen on the flashy signing. Like, Genie, like you look back when we got Genie, when we got Robertson, when we got Mane, really. I mean, none of those guys at the time, they were good players, but like they're not exactly setting the world on fire at that point in time either. And I think that plays into it too, is like, who do we find that can develop, max potential and lowest outlay, and it's interesting. I don't know. It's just a weird, who knows what we can expect. Thiago might sign tomorrow, and all of this will be for nothing. But it's
by the time we upload the episode, like Thiago's here, and we've ditched half the team for some reason, Or actually, more likely, it's by the time we post this episode, some guy that we have never heard of in our lives has been signed by the club, and within a year, we're like, what an invaluable signing! It's amazing. I'm so glad. Yeah,
we're gonna get somebody from like Real Betis or some crap, and like just out of nowhere.
Fekir.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's this guy named Fekir.
That must be why I was in my head. Yeah.
And like more than most teams, and probably more than any other team, really. Like when we make our transfer dealings, we're very clearly signing the personality as much as the on-field assets. And I know Klopp has spoken about it a lot, and I think he's even explicitly said, "If you're a dickhead, I don't want you." So like we're more than anything. Like, we're looking to see if they're a good culture fit because of what he's created throughout the club. And that kind of, in addition to, like, our very focused approach to who we want in certain areas, like, there's so many other factors that have to work out for us to actually pull the trigger and sign somebody. So I think that's an extra level of evaluation that we do that probably most other clubs don't necessarily do. Because we're better than everyone.
Even when you think about it, like, we're mad, but like spending like even a small transfer, like $5 million, still $5 million. Like, it's insane that you would spend that much money on a player. And so like the FSG's looking at it, they're like, yeah, I'm not going to spend $5 million on this player when I could get this player in baseball for some picks,
right?
Yeah.
There's still that aspect of, I think, them still learning the sport much more so as a sports management company. But I think that's why the investment and the participation and involvement of LeBron James is so essential to FSG's business dealings. And now a quick message concerning the You'll Never Talk Alone Fantasy League.
Hold on, can you hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because one of my AirPods died.
Oh, well, it wasn't the one that was important enough.
No, it was the left one. It's still alive. Right one's dead. Left on your side because you're looking at the screen. Is this?
I follow.
Should I go ahead and talk?
It's stage left, stage right. I get it. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. You ever heard of it?
Oh god. I don't know.
So everyone's gonna die, but good news. The Fantasy Premier League is still gonna be happening. Link out on the Twitter, in the comments, in the likes and the subscribes, on Facebook maybe, I don't know, Instagram possibly, Zoom, Discord.
We're just gonna have it on Zoom in general. You're just gotta you look for it, you'll find it. It's there. Okay,
It's on Zoom.
It's on Zoom somewhere. Yeah. I don't know where we're going to put this in the episode. This might be the beginning of the episode for all I know. But that's our plug for joining our Fantasy Premier League this season.
Check it out.
Just check it out. Oh, just check it out. Alex, we're going to put it up on the Twitter account?
No, we're putting it on Zoom.
We're putting it on Zoom. Make sure that you keep up with us on Zoom, everybody. YNTA Podcast. You'll see a link somewhere.
You'll see it on your Outlook calendar as we invite you to the Zoom meetings for the Fantasy Premier League.
It's going to be like a 15-second Zoom meeting of us reading out the link. All right, type it in, everyone. Here it is, premierleague.com/fantasy.
No, I'm going to stay on it. I'm going to read all the points. I'm going to tell you why they scored, who scored.
I think we know why they scored. It's their jobs, Andrew.
Well, it could be a tackle.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay, I got it. Oh, man. Okay, that's all you need. If that doesn't entice you to join our Fantasy Premier League, then you're an idiot.
2020,
If it doesn't...
Fantasy Premier League.
League, 2020, 2020 League. Yep. For more details on how to join the YNTA Fantasy League, check out our Twitter account, @YNTA Podcast. And now, back to the episode. I had this question that I was going to say for I want a step or two down the line, but I want to bring it up now and send it over to Will in particular. Because since we've been talking about some transfers and roster moves, that sort of thing. Will, you kind of in passing mentioned that you were pulling up the team roster, the team sheet beforehand, to kind of refresh yourself on some of the names and faces that we've come to know and love, and then some of the new people that we don't know a thing about. You look at that roster, it seems like every year for the past few years we've kind of had like the MVP of the team transfer every single year. Like, we joke, oh yeah, Mo Salah was a one-year wonder, right? Ha ha ha. But at the same time, like, Mo Salah has not been the most important player on the team since his, outstanding, score when he wants sort of year. You can say that Sadio Mane has been super important, all of that sort of. When you look at this team, if you will, now being our expert on the roster, the one to have Googled it most recently. If you were going to pick someone that you think might be kind of the star of the team this upcoming season, if you had to do it, who do you think you'd go with? I know it's a lot to put you on the spot, but...
Well, so I have, like, the star of the team, there's so many, like, it's the whole team. It's so hard to pick.
Right.
I said this a couple of years ago. I know you all remember it because you hang on my every word. But Fabinho, I said a few years ago that he was going to be our most important player that season. Maybe he wasn't that particular season. But we cried out for a defensive mid for like 20 years, and we finally got him. I mean, you got Alisson, you got Van Dijk, you got Salah, you got all these people that make the team tick. But Fabinho has, since he laid down that starting role as the sixth from Henderson, I guess like 18 months ago or so, he's been rock solid. He's a really great player. I think he might have a standout season. Other people might say Keita, but Fabinho's the glue, and I think he's going to have a great season. I will say that I think Minamino and also Curtis Jones will both have breakout seasons this year. I'm excited to watch both of them.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the involvement of Cujo in particular going forward, because he really seemed to show a lot of the characteristics of what we like and expect in our senior team, like midfielders. So I'm really curious to see his involvement in particular. But I'm going to file away your words to memory, as I always do. Like you said, I hang on your every word, and we're gonna revisit this topic in a little bit. But I like it. All right, I just had to throw you under the bus real quick. Let's do that to Andrew now. Andrew. No, not nearly as harsh, but we talked just a little bit before we hit record on when we were going over a list of topics. And one of the things that came up was this start to the season that we have on our schedule. Obviously opening up against Leeds. Leeds not necessarily being the most intimidating team in the world, but, they are a storyline that a lot of people have been able to get behind. The final return, finally getting back to the Premier League, and kind of the underdog story that they are. That's one of them. But follow that up instantly with Chelsea, the team that's been throwing the money around like crazy. After that, Arsenal. After that, somebody. After that, Everton. Sorry, I don't have much respect for Aston Villa. I don't know why, but they're just one of those teams that I look at them, I'm just like, they mean nothing to me. Villa, and then, Everton. And then even after that, Sheffield, who had opportunities last season to be one of the better teams in the league, and kind of fell off a little bit towards the end, but still were quite respectable. I mean, like, that's quite a stretch to open things up. What's your take on our chances of asserting ourselves early on, dominating the league early on even, or just how we're going to compete against those teams, Andrew?
Kind of worried about it, just with the way that we ended last season.
A fair point, an absolutely fair point.
Yeah, that could definitely be some fatigue, and we had already closed it out. We had won the league, but like we were going for all those records, and we didn't just meet expectations. So going into this season, I'm a little bit worried, but I'm glad that we open up with Leeds, even though like they were great in the championship last year. Like they've got some really good players. Calvin Phillips is already starting on for England before he's even playing in the Premier League. Like they're going to be a decent team, but it's their first Premier League game, and then we play Chelsea, and Chelsea has like a Modge Podge of all these different players that they've brought in.
It's a weird assortment of players, right? Like, I know we talked about them buying and spending so much money and bringing in all these. It's also a weird group of players.
It's just like, who knows how they're all going to fit together. There's not a long preseason for all of them to come together and play. Like, I'd be more worried if they start the same team that they played at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're starting, Pulisic and Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham, I'm more worried about that than them actually playing all these new signings, because whether or not those new signings are great, like, they've never played in the Premier League. They've never played all together. So, like, getting those 2 games in, I think it's going to be really helpful. I think we can, we won't have Henderson, so that's going to be a worry. But
I hadn't seen that. I thought, is he out this weekend?
He might be back for Chelsea. I don't think he's going to play this weekend. I know
he hasn't texted me in a little bit. I wasn't sure.
He's been in training. Saw him doing some keepy ups the other day, but he's I don't think we're gonna just off the bat play him whenever we're playing a team that's coming up from the championship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, getting those 2 games underneath our belt is going to be really helpful. But again, like I'm worried. I don't know what happened at the end of last season. Maybe they just didn't care as much, but it seems like something wasn't that desire wasn't there.
Yeah, and exactly. There were so many. I don't know if rumors are the right word, but so much speculation about like what was going on with the team and how like maybe they didn't ever actually care about records, and it just was finally lifting the trophy, like actually claiming the title was all that mattered. So once it was done, they were like, okay, like we've achieved that, which I would totally understand. But yeah, there are still some question marks about, okay, have we addressed some of the fatigue, some of the I mean, just bizarreness of the end of the season. I guess if there's any like consolation to be had here with starting with Chelsea so early on, who has been trying to make a lot of moves to become like a contender instantly, they're under much more pressure to prove and validate those moves than Liverpool is to prove or validate anything right now, because we're still defending Premier League champions. You know, Chelsea's going to come into that match going, okay, this is our chance to say, yeah, we just brought in all these players, and now like this is going to prove that we are contenders. And Liverpool, you know, we on the other hand are going to be able to look at it and say, we know we're contenders. We're not having to prove that. We just have to quiet you down, shut you up a little bit. So I think
this is. Oh, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was literally just going to say, I think that'll play into things.
I was just going to add, I think this is when you want to play Chelsea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is early, even if it is at Stamford Bridge. Like this is, you want to kind of kick them in the nards early before they get time to settle in.
It was such a childish term, and it makes me happy every single time somebody says kick them in the nards. Oh man. Yeah, no, absolutely. This would be the time to jump on it and try to prove that they're not making the right signings. They're not there yet. They're not on our level yet. Our level.
Just remind them that they still have Kepa.
Yes, exactly. They still have Kepa.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe like last year, the whole goal was like, let's prove that we're the best team in the Premier League. And, like, that's why we kind of let our foot off the gas. And, like, maybe this year it's like we're the best team in the world. And we're just going to go out in both competitions and, like, come out swinging.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have that motivation. I don't know. I'm not Klopp.
Right, exactly.
I could be, but I'm not.
I've seen you manage the YMCA, the local YMCA, and just, you know, YMCA Klopp. I've always said it. The YMKA, Young Men's Klopp Association, when Andrew's around. That's what I've called it. All right, so let's take a quick look at the weekend itself. Let's look at the weekend itself, and then get to our relegation predictions. But Alex, Leeds, fresh off a return to the Premier League. So much excitement and hype and heartwarmingness surrounding them as the true like lovable, scrappy, we're finally back here sort of story, or whatever. And but what do we actually get out of this team? Like when we look at what they bring to the table, what do we actually know about Leeds going into this opening weekend, Alex?
They've got an insane, lovable man as their manager. I'm very much looking forward to the meeting of the minds of Klopp and Bielsa, because I don't think it's ever happened before, and they're two kind of stalwarts of the game, of the modern game, and it will be very interesting to see them clash. We're going to be coming up almost against like a South American style of how we initially played when Klopp came in, with the high pressing, the lots of energy, the quick counters, the quick transitions. They've got players that fit really well into that style. They found the core group. I mean, overall in the season, the lack of 46 matches should definitely help them since they found a way to make their level more sustainable because they had a couple times even before Bielsa, and then like when he first came, they were dominating and they just became exhausted. So that's something we don't really have to worry about yet because it's the first game of the season. But it will be very intense. I think this will probably, especially with Henderson, probably not fit enough to start. This will be a game for Naby. This will be a game for Genie. This will be a game for press-resistant midfielders, someone to be able to turn out of pressure, get rid of it quickly, because we're going to have to move quickly. While they may be compact, they're not going to be a type that like parks the bus and gets in our way. They're going to come out to play, which can favor us. But I mean, they all know their jobs. They've added some quality. It'll be interesting to see if Rodrigo plays because despite his lack of killer instinct, he is like a intensity machine up there, and he links the play together. So there will be some danger. But I mean, we're a really, really, really good team. And they are recently promoted. So however good they have been, this is a whole different level than what they're used to. So it's going to be really intriguing and hopefully not as garbage as most opening weekend matches are. Because as fun as it is to have the league back, usually all of the first games are absolutely terrible. So this one, given the short break, should be a little bit better.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about, is whether some teams will be able to come out a little bit fresher because of the short break. Any chance, Alex, and then give us a scoreline prediction, but any chance here you think of Leeds pulling anything resembling a Sheffield of last season and exceeding expectations?
I don't think so because I feel like there's a lot more expectation on them than there was of Sheffield. Like I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, they play in a really interesting style. It'll be a shame to see them go down immediately." But I don't. They were helped a bit by everyone else in the league sucking for the most part, and them actually having any sort of cohesion because that seemed to be all it took to do anything good in the league last year is to have like a game plan and be able to stick to it. But I think they will probably meet expectations. I think they'll probably finish mid-table, Leeds this season mid-table, maybe a outside chance of pushing for the last Europa League spot when it inevitably goes to 7th place. But don't think it'll be hard to match Sheffield's output. But where they finish, that will probably be where Leeds finishes.
Cool. All right, give us a scoreline prediction then, sir.
I think it's going to be a bit uncomfortable for a large majority of it, but I feel like we're going to just kind of explode towards the end, and it'll be a 3-1 victory because we don't keep that many clean sheets anymore.
Right. I was just gonna say when we got around to predict, I was gonna say we're kind of getting back into that thing where it's like we're gonna give up one goal for no reason, and that's just how it is. But oh well. All right, Andrew, your expectations for the opening match out of our Reds, and give us a scoreline prediction, sir.
Expectations. I think Leeds is going to benefit from a lot of our players going off on international duty. I think that we're going to be used to playing against their style, and they're not obviously going to be used to playing against a team of Liverpool's caliber. But I think that they're going to be ready for it. They're going to be excited. It's going to be their first game in the Premier League. They're going to come out guns a-blazing, and it is going to crush them. They are just going to be so excited to play. They'll probably be super excited, super nervous. They're going to play exactly how they did against those chump championship teams, and we're going to come out and just dominate on possession and probably win like 1-0. We're just gonna have trouble scoring for no reason because that's how we've been as of late.
I love it. Will, what you got? What are your expectations? What's your scoreline prediction?
I don't know. Other than Bielsa as the coach, I don't know much about Leeds, just to be honest. Sheffield was a pleasant surprise. Hopefully, Leeds will become a pleasant surprise in week 2. But week 1, I just don't. I mean, like, you look at the Blackpool game, like, we kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit, and we said, okay, all right, and then we hung 7 on them. Like, it's not. I don't really see us having too much. I recognize Blackpool is not the same, but I don't really see us having too much trouble. 3-1. They'll score first. We'll come back and destroy them.
I like it. I like it. I want to dream up some sort of like Hulk Hogan joining the NWO sort of like storyline for James Milner and Leeds, but Millie's he's too good of a man to ever betray anybody and put on a Leeds kit like in the middle of the match, like score an own goal and put on a Leeds kit. It would never happen. I'm trying to dream something like that up because I think it'd be funny. But it seems blasphemous to speak ill of James Milner in any sort of way, even in a purely facetious way. So I think that we're going to beat them 3-0 James Milner hat trick then. I think that's the only way to atone for my sins is to say that's going to happen. He's going to jump in a relief role for about the last 35 minutes of the match and get 3 goals. There we go. That's my prediction. You can tell I'm getting tired. All right. So now let's look at the predictions for the season as a whole and speak a little bit about who we think gets relegated. So we used to try to talk a little bit about like the newly promoted teams and like who we thought would stay up and who would go down. I just don't even have like the desire to try to talk about who's going to stay up because I don't know enough about any of these newly promoted teams. So let's look instead at who's going to go back down and back down alone. That's our only topic here. All right. So, Alex, I got to jump back to you, being the top of the order, the speaking order. But who do you think gets relegated this year, man?
These are our Bundesliga predictions, right?
Oh my God. We made it this long in the podcast without you making any Bundesliga references, and now you had to drop it on me. Unbelievable.
Yeah, because I don't want to talk about these just terrible teams that much. But yeah, I think as valiantly as Slaven Bilic will fight, I think West Brom will be going straight back down because they're the ultimate yo-yo club. Along with their yo-yo club counterpart, Fulham. I think they suck. Tim Ream has a chance to come in and defend his title of worst defender in the league, and I think he will take that with both hands, which is illegal in soccer. So,
but not for him.
He doesn't know that.
Yeah. And then Aston Villa. They're just garbage. Although I do give kudos to them for retaining the Kappa kits, and I think that will hurt Leeds a lot, is not having the Kappa kits anymore. They're not going to know what to do with the extra wind resistance of not having a jersey that is absolutely skin tight. So we'll see how they adjust to that.
Andrew, you have some predictions you'd like to throw out on who gets relegated?
I mean, I was literally gonna say the same 3. None of them are gonna be good enough. I don't really know what to say. Aston Villa, like, Grealish isn't gonna be able to help them much. He's gonna give up. He's done. He's like, fuck this team. I'm leaving. Y'all figure it out yourself. I'm done saving you. That's about it. I mean, maybe, and sorry, Zach, maybe Brighton.
I predicted them to go down last year. And I mean, they tried for a while to go down, but eventually they fixed it. But I predicted them to go down last year.
Close.
Got real close. Will, who you got?
Fulham for sure. West Brom. And I'm going to say
City.
I think West Ham actually sucks and could. Well, I'll throw a curveball. I don't think they'll go down, but I wish they would.
They're the worst team in the league.
The worst team in the league.
I hate them worse than Palace. I mean, my God.
I can't. I'm with you, Will. I want to pick West Ham to go down so badly, but I've picked them multiple times years ago on the podcast, like years in a row. I'm like, well,
picked them last year.
we both picked them last year. I've always been like, this is the year. I mean, they're just so bad. It has to happen. This is the year, and they just won't do it. So I can't pick them. I just can't do it this year because I can't get my hopes up that we'll finally get rid of West Ham.
I think it's. I was joking. I wish it would be West Ham. I think it's going to be Villa. I think it's Fulham, West Brom, and Villa for sure. It's. If we could relegate 4, West Ham, please.
Oh man, no, yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to differentiate from those predictions as well, because like I mean, I feel like West Ham has a chance. I think maybe Brighton this time around might have enough going for them where they might be able to ride a little bit of momentum, but I just can't tell. But I feel like they're more of like a 10th or 11th place team now that they've gotten Adam Lallana. So, but I think that they're a couple of spots higher, but not actually pushing into the top 10 at all this year. But I mean, you just look at it, it's like I don't even know who else. I look at this list and I'm like, oh yeah, they're definitely fodder for going down. For the most part, there's a lot of names in the Premier League this year that you look at and you're like, they could be just good enough to avoid it. But then,
there's like the top 6, and then everyone else could get relegated reasonably.
Yeah, exactly. Like last year, we talked a little bit about. It was like, here's the top 6, here's the middle of the pack, then here's like the 6 or 7 teams that are fighting to avoid relegation. This year, it's much going back to the tried and true Premier League tradition of here's the few teams that could compete for a title, and here's everyone else that's going to be one step away from being relegated every week. Yay. So it's hard for me to look at the list and go with anyone other than West Brom, Fulham, and Aston Villa. Fulham in particular, I hate it for my boys that play at my ancestral home ground of Craven Cottage, but can't see them staying up. Well, there we go. Since we all are kind of like largely in agreement on what's going to happen here, I wonder if this is going to make it so that we actually remember to revisit this topic later on in the season. Doubt it, but I guess we'll find out. We're gonna be so uninterested in a little while here when we're talking about how James Milner is playing 90 minutes a match again at left back and is just dropping goals left and right, and we have no explanation for it other than he switched the tea that he drinks and now it's giving him superpowers or something. So looking forward to that. It's gonna be a good year, guys. I'm excited to. It was weird, the big wait, the big pause before we could finish the season. I'm glad that we did finish the season just so there wouldn't have to be any like stupid debates about the season being called prematurely or whatever. But been weird to have such a short off season without any chance to really like recover, to celebrate and all of that. I'm looking forward to a year-long celebration of what we accomplished in this past season as the reigning and defending Premier League champions. And I'm looking forward to being able to chat with you guys again about it after we took a couple of weeks off here on the podcast. So you guys want to put on some masks, get together about 10 feet apart from each other and watch a match sometime soon?
I'm in.
Let's do it.
It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. All right, thank you for joining us, dear listener, on this, our start of the 2020-2021 season. This is also my favorite season in general because it just sounds like someone forgetting to move forward as they're talking 2020-2021 season. We are looking forward to another good year in the life of Liverpool Football Club and of this terrible podcast. So, with that, I think it's only right that we hand it over to our dear friend, Mr. Andrew Ainsworth, to sign us out on this, our first episode of the 2020-2021 season. Andrew, take it away, sir.
The final and first episode of the 2020-2021 season, because after Saturday, there's not going to be any more games. No one's going to be able to play ever again. I just want to say thanks to every person, maybe one guy who ever listened to this, because after this we're gonna have like 2 years of soccer where there's not actually any soccer. There's just gonna be like silence and football where everyone's dying on American football fields because everyone's just got coronavirus, and it's just like really gonna be sucky and it's gonna be sad, and like we're not gonna have any more. We're gonna have to stream it all, and the world is just going to.
Thanks for listening.